Four fabulous starts got off for the 1982 Michelob Light Grand Bahama 200, and here we see one of the new entries in Class 5, Zipper. It's a 21-foot Shadow with one 225 horsepower Mercury engine. Louis Carrello and Tom Barr of Coral Gables, Florida, ended up taking the title for Offshore 5 in this particular race. Newport is News V16 made it about 100 yards and had engine failure. Here we go up the back of the pack to Offshore 4 and show you some of the action that took place in the Michelob Light Grand Bahama 200. Some great competition between Rolling Thunder, a 32-foot Cobra with two 350 horsepower Chevy engines. That's Vince Rinaldi and crew members Vince Jr. and Peter Rinaldi. We also had the Imperial Installer out of Key West, Florida, which is a 34-foot Coyote with three 260 Mercury outboards, John Carbonell, Skip Harper, and Brian Boswick. By the way, John Carbonell is heading up the 1982 World Championship race in Key West, Florida. The John Player Special is a 30-foot Formula with three 200 Mariner outboards. Robert Johnson, Scott Porter, and Keith Sparks are the crew. There's Bandit, a 32-foot Cobra with three 240 horsepower Mercury outboards. Sonny Reeser, Craig Maudsley, and John Cole did super for the day. We flew up the front of the pack to pick up Rampage, Arneson, and Michelob Light, defending US 1 champion, as they compete here for the Michelob Light Grand Bahama 200. Rampage is a 39-foot Cigarette with two 700 horsepower Rahilly Grady engines. Eddie Trouta and Hal Salmon from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, stayed in terrific action here with Arneson and Michelob Light. Of course, Betty, our defending US 1 world champion, is in a 38-foot Scarab with two 675 horsepower Kama engines. Betty's from Newport Beach, California, with her crew, John Connor and Dick Clark. Betty stayed in the lead for just about 3/4 of the race here, going down across the Bahama Islands. And at this time, we had clocked her at an average speed of about 85 miles an hour. Staying in the lead with her in first place, Arneson Michelob Light team in second place, and Rampage in third. Tony Garcia and Sammy James were flying under the flag of Michelob Light for the Grand Bahama 200. The Michelob Light is a 38-foot Cougar catamaran with two 700 horsepower KSW engines. Tony Garcia and Sammy James are coming off a win from the Saugatuck race and also the Key Caper St. Augustine Classic. Two wins back-to-back. We flew up the course to pick up some more of the action in Offshore 4 and the remainder of the classes in the Michelob Light Grand Bahama 200. A new entry in Offshore 4 is P33, the Sunoco Express, a 30-foot Shadow Cat with two Chevy 368 horsepower engines. Dave Richards, Percy Jones, and Rich Liebner from Inglewood, New Jersey were competing with our furthest entrant, Continental Airlines, with Graham Sutherland and Kevin Green from Wellington, New Zealand. Continental Airlines is a 30-foot Scarab with three 240 horsepower Mercury outboards. Defending world champion Lance Rubel in a 28-foot Manta with three 225 horsepower Mercury outboards. Crew members Tom Greco and Fred Estevez were running in second place. Here we see Black Duck, a 30-foot Shadow Cat with three 240 horsepower Mercury outboards. Pete Atkin and Tom Akura, Connecticut, stayed in the lead here and finished in the lead. One of the 5 Shadow Cats in the Michelob Light Grand Bahama 200. Love It, a 30-foot Shadow Cat with two 400 horsepower Mercruiser engines. Chuck Jepson, Dave Gilmore, and Jack Burnett from Dania, Florida, stayed in the lead here in their super 30-foot Shadow Cat. This boat was well trimmed out for the Bahama waters. Here we see a 31-foot Seahawk with two 500 horsepower KSW engines. Sal Magluta, Justo J, and Armando Riviero from Miami, Florida, came into this race in the top first place national high point leaders. They were running in second behind Love It. Many of the offshore contenders in offshore powerboat racing have rated the 31-foot Seahawk hull as the fastest V-bottom available today. As you can see here, Sal and crew were doing absolutely terrific behind Love It. The Seahawk hull and a pair of KSW engines were great competition for the Michelob Light Grand Bahama 200. Nightwing M10, a 32-foot Cobra with two 500 horsepower KSW engines. Crew members on board today were Maynard Gonzalez driver, Martin Bandon, and Michael Gard. M10 Nightwing is part of the Seahawk racing team from Miami, Florida. Nightwing was running third until mechanical difficulties put them out of the race. Another Steve Stepp creation, a 30-foot Velocity named Super Fox, had two 350 horsepower Mercury engines. Rod Presley from Sarasota, Florida, with crew members Ed Zanavani and John Pitstick. They ran an impressive third place for the Michelob Light Grand Bahama 200. Here we see the Cigarette Hawk, a 37.5-foot Cigarette with two 670 horsepower Hawk engines. Defending world champion Jerry Jacoby and crew Keith Hazel and Bart Corton were in there again to become US 1 for 1982. Popeyes is a 38-foot Scarab with two 650 horsepower Mercruiser engines. Al Copeland is the owner and driver from Jefferson, Louisiana, with crew members Bill Soroyas and Stan Ware. Al has the prestigious honor of bringing the Harmsworth Trophy back to the United States in the 1982 season. also had the honor of winning the Detroit race for 1982 in offshore powerboat racing. Number 6, the new Michelob Light Catamaran. It's a 38-foot Cougar Cat with two 700-horsepower KSW engines. The new Michelob Light Cougar Cat was running in second behind US 1 champion Betty Cook. The Arneson drives and this combination of a 38-foot Cougar Cat have proved themselves well in the 1982 season by winning the Saugatuck race and the Keycaper St. Augustine Classic. It looked like Sammy and Tony could do just about anything or overtake any boat at any time during the Michelob Light Grand Bahama 200. final turn towards home, the new Michelob Light 38-foot Cougar with Tony Garcia and Sammy James took the lead for the balance of the race. We flew up the course as rapidly as possible to pick up S19 Power Play with Dan Weinstein and Pete Eubner and Dominic Santarelli. Power Play is a 32-foot Cougar Cat with two 600-horsepower Rahilly Grady engines. Dan came into the race as national high point leader and became S1 for the 1982 season. Second place running behind Power Play was Ericsson's racing team with Bob Erickson, Harry Wellman, and John Falk. Erickson is a 30-foot Shadow Cat with two 500-horsepower Mercruiser engines. Trying to catch Dan Weinstein in Power Play was an incredible task in the Michelob Light Grand Bahama 200. At this point in the race, we had him at an average speed of 92 miles an hour in his run for the finish line. Dan was in first place at this point, and you can see here, his four-man crew was doing an absolutely super job in their 32-foot Cougar Cat. We can't forget the fourth member of the crew, Jimmy Rossi. That's what made it so unusual to watch Power Play. One of the few cats with a four-man crew. Here we see Dan coming in for the finish. Dan became US1 in sport class and first place in the Michelob Light Grand Bahama 200 with Bob Erickson and the Erickson Racing Team boat coming in second in sport class. Our third place winner in Offshore 2, the sport class, was S30 Express, a 37-foot active cat with two 703 horsepower Chevy engines, with crew members Butch Ryan, Larry Falk, and Bruce Beatty. And here comes Lovett, our winner in Offshore 3. Right behind Lovett was our US1 champion in modified class, Sal Magluta in Seahawk. Sal had an impressive second place win behind Lovett and became the national high point champion in the modified Offshore 3 class for the 1982 season. And here comes Black Duck, our first place winner in Offshore 4 and became P1 for the 1982 offshore racing season. Pete Aitken and Black Duck ended up with 1,422 points to capture P1 for 1982 here at the Michelob Light Grand Bahama 200. We returned out to the course to bring in the rest of the Offshore 1 contenders with Betty Cook, our defending US 1 champion, running an impressive second place behind Tony Garcia and Sammy James in their 38-foot Michelob Light Cougar Cat. And here's what Motor Week Illustrated had to say about Tony Garcia and Sammy James' third win for the 1982 offshore powerboat racing season.
The World Championship wraps up in Las Vegas. Ray Hall wins, AJ and Kevin crash in Michigan. And both titles are decided in the Bahamas. All this and more today on Motor Week Illustrated.
WCNN, All News 68. Now you have an opportunity to tune into more news and information than ever before. Powerful, professional, penetrating news reports from our city, the nation, the world. In a world grown smaller and smaller, news and how it affects us becomes vital to our well-being. Tune in for complete reports 24 hours a day. As long as you've got a radio, you've got the news. WCNN, All News 68.
One of the neat things about boat racing is the location of the events. Last weekend, for example, the American Power Boat Association Offshore title chase went to the Bahamas. With the crystal clear blue-green Caribbean beckoning and national high point championships in all offshore classes up for grabs, America's best offshore powerboat racers took to the waters to decide the titles. In the pro stock class, Peter Aitken had to win to clinch the crown. He did just that, putting his Shadow Cat out front. All the competition saw of him was his spray. With the other title contenders well back, Aitken cruised to a clutch victory in pro stock. He was fourth ranked going in and pulled out the title. Meanwhile, in the sport class, Dan Weinstein needed to finish ahead of Bob Erickson to clinch the crown. Erickson came on strong in the late season with 3 straight second-place finishes. But the back of Weinstein is all Erickson saw in the finale. Weinstein the champ. Those two renew their battle in November's World Championships. Now let's go to the modified division. A must-win situation here for Chuck Jepson and his Shadow Cat called Love It. This Florida native has been chasing Sal Magluta all season. In the Bahamas, Magluta stayed close to Jepson, ensuring himself a runner-up race finish and thus the series title. Now, Jepson ran hard, hoping Magluta would break, but it never happened. Jepson wins the race. Magluta takes the crown. And by the way, that was Jepson's 3rd straight. Quite a season's finish. When the open class boats started their 186-mile charge, 3-time national champ Betty Cook had to finish ahead of Jerry Jacoby to have any chance at her 4th title. So Betty went right to the front, chased by her new Michelob Light teammate Tony Garcia. With Cook leading, her nemesis Jacoby lurking in 4th. And if he stayed there, the California grandmother had to win to take the title. Cook held Garcia at bay as they charged away from the field, then Garcia made his move. His innovative Arneson surface drive system and 1,500 horsepower pushed him to the front, and he headed for home. When Cook made the final turn, Garcia and her title hopes were a speck in the distance. Garcia's third straight win moves him to third in the points. Jacoby takes his first national championship. And that world final, by the way, has now been set for Key West on November 13th. Well, that's Motor Week Illustrated for today. I'm Dave Despain. We'll see you next week.
The beautiful new official Motor Week jackets are provided by ADF Auto Graphics. A $69.95 value. They're specially priced for our viewers at $49.95. Mail your check, money order, Visa, or MasterCharge to 6347 Homewood Avenue, Hollywood, California, 90028. That's 6347 Homewood Avenue, Hollywood, California, 90028. Travel arrangements made through Eastern Airlines, America's favorite way to fly to 127 cities, 22 countries, and one magic kingdom. Come fly with Eastern. We earn our wings every day. Motor Week Illustrated was brought to you by Dodge, America's driving machines, with the sports car and the personal luxury cars that give high performance on the road as well as high mileage at the pump. And by the Champion Spark Plug Company. Nobody puts more performance in a spark plug. Champion, the spark plug that wins the world over.
The winner today of the Michelob Light 200 in the open class was Tony Garcia, Bernie Little, and Throttle and Sammy James, the Michelob Light Boat.
Sammy, can you come out just a little bit? Good. Okay, look around here. Good. Hold it. Minister, can you Tony?
Bernie, we sent a bottle of champagne over to Bernie and his table over there, and they didn't deliver the message. It was from Howard Arneson and myself, wishing him good wishes for a very wise investment into the Arneson team. And it's very appropriate that on our first race with the Michelob group that we should pull up a winner, and it's not easy to do, believe me. But we have enjoyed it very much here, and we're enjoying very much an association with Bernie Little. I'd like to honor Howard Arneson, my partner in the Arneson boat, and making a lot of this possible.
I looked all over today for a sympathy card for Howard Arneson. Thank you, Howard. Really and truly, it's a great pleasure for us to be here and to be associated with the Bahamian government. And when the ministry takes time to come over here and everybody puts this together, Pete and the boat club, and I'm glad someone recognized the FAA and the tower people out here, the fuel people give us fast turnarounds, the telephone operators all go to work and help us. I want to really tell you that it's been a great pleasure to be here, and it was very easy for me to win this race when you have people like Tony and Sammy running the boat and Howard giving me a super deal. Anyhow, to take a 1-2 is one of the few times in your life that that'll ever happen, and I really appreciate all of you coming. We had many meetings when we didn't know whether we'd get to come to the Bahamian Islands or not, but I really appreciate you all coming, and we hope next year that we'll have twice as many. Thank you very much.
Thank you.